sing. It's more like
Wait, I'm going for a different way.
Oh, we're
like
going two different
horns. So everybody, this is Shara.
This is Candiz. So we got a lot of feedback from our toxic relationships part 1. We got some DMs. We had a couple of comments on our page. We've had side conversations with friends. So we are ready to go back into this topic, open it back up, and close it out with this episode. And we want to talk a little bit more about the feedback that we received from part 1. And we also want to discuss how we suggest dealing with toxic relationships. And then we just kind of want to explore the other side of toxic relationships, which is where I think we should start.
Everyone has been toxic to someone. Well, admittedly, maybe not intentionally, maybe intentionally, but all of us have been toxic to someone at one point in their life. I believe I can own up to that. How about you, Shara? Can you own up to this?
Yeah, and so that's something that I kind of sat with after last episode. We are not talking about just being on the receiving end of being toxic. We are also referring to ways that we've been toxic to other people. We're not here on our high horse or in our seats and saying, you're toxic, you're toxic, you're toxic.
Everybody's toxic.
Everybody's toxic. And we have been too. Like, you know, in my reflections, I know some people that come to mind, very distinct people that I know for sure that I have been toxic towards. In a past relationship, you know, things were gotten to the point that they gotten so bad that I became a toxic person to that person because I didn't trust that person anymore. I was always accusing that person, and the love wasn't the same. So instead of ending it, when I just allowed it to go on, and it became toxic for the both of us.
Wow. I want to go into the relationship portion. I will start with the more positive, toxic relationship. That makes any sense, guys? Let me explain it to you first. So, me and this guy, we were known each other since I was about 15 or 16, and we were in a relationship in my adult years. He ended up being stationed in California, and I was here, and we just was like going head to head on communication, and we broke up. And we weren't friends at all. We weren't cool at all. And then we came and had some closure. And then we were super cool. When he was here, we had to see each other. It was a requirement. Like, he had to see me. Every Christmas was like Christmas. It got to a point that it was just so hard for us to keep up just keep up being attached to each other, that it was getting toxic, like mentally toxic for us. And so like when like certain holidays would come around or birthdays and we couldn't spend them with each other, it hurt. So like I remember it was a Valentine's Day, and I was just like, I have to let you, like, everything was good. He said happy Valentine's Day, everything great, but he was still 3,000 miles away. So I was like, okay, I gotta stop, because this is really like hurting. Like, I can't, like, this is hurting you, this is hurting me. Like, we gotta stop. Like, we gotta go cold turkey. And it just stopped. And he was mad about it for a while, but then we still regrouped later. It was like, you know what, that was for the best, because we really had to like really cleanse our systems of each other in order to grow and be able to allow other people to have a chance with us. Not without this person being in the background. It's like, she's gonna always love him.
Yeah.
So that was good for us. So we're still cool, but we're not at that level of cool that we were just like, you know, so attached to each other now. So
yeah, I mean,
scars.
So like, and I mean, another example for me is There's a guy that I've known for years. I mean, like early 20, and we've been friends. And this particular person has always wanted a full-blown relationship with me, and it's something that I knew that just wouldn't happen. So, up until like recently, maybe the end of last year or beginning of this year, I had to realize that I can't keep hanging with you and interacting with you and chilling with you because I'm being toxic to you. Because what's happening is every time we hang out, every time we go out, in your mind, it's us potentially working on being a couple. When in my mind, I know what it is. It's just us hanging out. So I had the realization that I'm being toxic to you, and what made me realize is that the last time, this particular person completely blew up and got teary-eyed and was just like, yo, like, why can't you take this serious? Like, I want to be with you. And, me looking into his eyes, I was like, yo, like, I'm a messed up person. I really felt like a messed up person. Like, I am unintentionally leading you on. And that was me being unintentionally toxic. So it's just like, I just really want to emphasize, like, don't get it wrong. Like, you need to realize that we're calling out other toxic people, but all of us, none of us fall short of being toxic to somebody, because as I said in the last episode, toxicity.
Hey!
It's subjective. It's really subjective. So some people like I said, some people think one thing is toxic because how it affects them, and other people may not consider that as toxic. So, and he may look at it like, oh, that wasn't toxic, but I do, because there's no way I ever want anybody to experience me in that way, which is I frustrate you, I make you feel sad or mad, because that's not the vibe that I'm ever going for if you know me. So if I leave you with that taste in your mouth, then I'm being toxic to you.
I've actually had that moment of misleading, and it was unintentional and then intentional.
At least you're honest.
And I fully, because when as I was dating this person, it seemed like it was good at first, but then I realized that he was very self-relying on his family. And for me, being as independent as I was at an early age, like taking care of family, I had an issue with you not holding your own. Like, you at least had to have a job. You need to be able to get yourself to where you need to go. Like, and as far as, like, someone being my potential king is concerned, it didn't settle well. So, but I really did try to, like, make things work to the point that it was just like I was forcing it, and me forcing it, like, to make things work on just so to make him happy, because I knew he really wanted it. He's a good guy, like, amazing guy. Like, I was forcing it, so I realized I was being toxic to that person. And when I realized I was really forcing this, because like I began talking to someone else, and I was like really into this other guy because he had his own. He was doing things that I wanted him to do, and when that guy made me mad, I went right back talking strongly to the other guy. I was like, you know what, you can be my boyfriend. And the very next day, I know, it's terrible. When I tell you, like, that was the most messed up thing I could have done. Like, I was like, I apologized profusely, because the very next day I regretted it. And I was like, I don't know what, I should not have said that.
We've been there.
So
we've all hurt someone in a toxic way. Listen,
like, terribly. I apologize so much. Like, and people know that I hate the word sorry.
Yeah.
If you're gonna say something to me, if you're gonna apologize to me, you have to say I apologize. If you say I'm sorry, I'm gonna be like, you're sorry excuse for a person. That's just me. So when I say I'm sorry, I felt like I was a sorry excuse of a person. That was me. I said I was sorry. I didn't just apologize, but also said I was sorry.
Yeah.
So
I agree. So for me, if there's anybody out there that's watching this and you feel like I've been the toxic person to you, I apologize, because trust me, I am not in any way, shape, or form intentional. Like, if you know me, you know that I would never intentionally hurt anyone or be toxic, but I clearly have identified people in ways that I have been. And so I think, you know, when it comes to yourself, when you've identified, and it takes a lot of self-reflection, you really have to reflect on, okay, all of your relationships and what you're getting out of it. But on the other end, what are you bringing to the table in that relationship? And if you feel like, okay, you know what, I'm doing more harm than good to any relationship, then in those ways you can potentially be toxic. And you need to recognize that, and you need to be honest with yourself. And then sometimes, reluctantly, you may just have to excuse yourself. You dismiss other people. That's one of the things that you do when you're on the receiving end. But you also need to dismiss yourself. Like in the example I gave, and you said the same thing. I knew that I could never be what that person wanted me to be in his life. So I had to dismiss myself. Like, I care about you as a friend. I could never be your woman. And that's what you want, and that's what you've been wanting for years. Like, at this point, over a decade. And I have to dismiss myself. Like, we can check in, but no more hanging out, no more chilling. I can't. Because I refuse to be that energy to someone else.
And I apologize to anyone who felt I've been toxic to you. And if you want to, let me know about it, just so you can go ahead and clear that air with me. I'm completely fine with it. Go ahead, DM me, message me if you got my phone number, send me an email if you have it, first name, last name. If you feel like that's on your heart, pray about that first though. But I also want to say, I can't say I have gotten this far with every person, but most people that have been toxic to me, I've forgiven. That's how I'm able to share my testimony on certain things. Like, I feel like we've been testifying on some of the things. Like, I don't want to ever be in a point to suppress my testimony or your testimony about certain things, because it's going to be a healing to someone else. It's going to be helping someone else. I'm like, you know what? I've been through that. I see the same things happen. Like, you know, these are parallel. Like, when I was talking about parallel to you earlier in our side discussions. Like, you'll see things, and if we don't speak about this, then we're not doing any of you a justice. Just sitting up here talking about nothing. Like, sharing exactly what goes on in our lives and sharing true stories and true things that happen to us. It creates that transparency, and it helps you and us. Because some things that we're sitting here just literally clearing the air for the first time.
And I mean, this is just our show, so we're gonna give our opinion and our experience. That's just how it works.
This is our show.
All right, so how do we deal with toxic people? We already just went through when we're a toxic person. We suggest dismissing yourself. Candiz mentioned praying about it. Candiz mentioned, as we both did, going to the people and apologizing. So those are the way that if you feel like you're the toxic person, that's what we suggest. So if you're on the receiving end, what do we suggest? Let's go.
The receiving end.
Number one, reflecting. I think, I don't know, I can't remember the gentleman's name who wrote a long, very thoughtful comment on our last video, which I appreciated. I can't remember your name, and I apologize. I don't know if you remember the name. But part of what was said in the comment, if I remember correctly, was sometimes people are going through things and you don't know about, and they may be treating other people a certain way or something like that because of what they're going through, which I agree with. And I think the example I gave of the last guy I was talking to, I feel like he has a lot of stuff that he's going through, but because of how he was interacting with me and his engagement with me, it became toxic. But that doesn't take away from my recognition that he has a lot of other stuff going on. But guess what? It was still subjectively toxic to me because there were certain things that he was doing that was negatively affecting me and my vibes and my space. So that was toxic to me. There was time for me to reflect on, okay, the past 3 months, what has gone down? And me really realizing, like, I'm lying to myself if I think it's anything but toxic. And then calling it what it is. Because truth be told, the older you get, like I know a lot of people know me in different spaces, but as far as relationships, friendships, like who I'm going to give my time to on a consistent basis, who I check for, those are like relationships, and you need to evaluate what type of relationships you have. And either you have nourishing relationships or you have toxic relationships. And I know that's a reach, but I think it can be either or, because guess what? If you have a nourishing relationship, those are relationships that are feeding you. You know, toxic relationships empty your cup. Ooh. Nourishing relationships fill your cup. Like, you can't have nobody you don't know what category to put them in. All of your relationships should be nourishing relationships at a certain point in your life. You can have associates, but as far as relationship, friendships, and like who you really checking for, and who you like know that's really checking for you, are they nourishing you, or are they being toxic toward you? Are they emptying your cup, or are they filling your cup? And those are the type of questions that you need to ask. Because if the people around you and you can't really answer that question, then you need to consider who's around you. And are they being toxic, or are they nourishing you? I think not enough people do that. Not enough people reflect on who's in their life and who needs to be at what level in their life. And then recognizing, you know, who's nourishing and who's toxic, and building those categories out. Who's draining you, who's filling your cup. And then again, that also relates to some people unintentionally drain your cup. I remember I knew someone who was venting to me about a friendship, and they were like, I think I have to start separating myself from this particular person because they drain me. Every time I get around them, they're complaining, they're talking about, you know, all the bad stuff that's going on in their life, and, you know, I want to be a good friend and I want to listen, but every time. And so when you think about it, that other person was being toxic because that, you know, it's like she was emptying her cup.
Can I pause?
Yeah.
So, just to be clear, there are levels to toxicity. Like, there's the grain of the grains where you just like, you're just the evilest person. Let's just put it out there. Well, we're not gonna put you up there. You're the evilest person. So this is where you are.
Yes.
But then you got the different levels. It's like, you know, you're not even realizing, like, in this, like, the girl probably didn't even realize how toxic she was being to the other friend. Yeah. Because she was emptying so much, and she's just like, yo, this person's gonna hear me out, and I can always trust them to hear about everything that's bad going on in life. But when are we gonna talk about today? Yeah. Thanks to, again, she said thank you. I'm gonna say thank you as well. Thank you to the commenters in all of you, because there was quite a few of you that commented. The one with the long paragraph, that was something like we spoke about. I was like, yo, we really, like that, he really went deep. And it's interesting to see people's different ways and views on life. Cause I think he like hashtagged like holistic healing on it. I was just like, okay, so that's his thing, okay. So it was quite interesting. Like when we said in the beginning, like every one of us had been toxic to someone in a certain way at some certain point in life. So where he may not have seen that situation as it being toxic doesn't mean it wasn't toxic for somebody else. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes. So like you can't tell another person how they're supposed to feel.
Exactly.
That's like when somebody apologizes, like, I apologize if you feel this way. No,
Right.
I felt this way.
Yes.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
So to be able to talk about it, that means like I was like I've even said in the past video like I don't think about this person until someone like brought them up, because I've already forgiven, I've already moved past it, I'm already was done. But since we're on the subject, hey, might as well talk about it all in general. Okay, go ahead, continue.
So that brings me to another way to deal with toxic people, which is communicate. And it starts with that. So you recognize it, say for instance, on the lighter side. So we're not talking about the pits of hell toxicity. We're talking about maybe the unintentional. So you go to your friend and you're like, yo, I love you, girl, but when you did XYZ, or when you do this consistently, or look, every time you dump on me, whatever it may be, communicate, especially if you have a relationship with that person. Like, if you have any type of relationship with anybody and you can't go to them and keep it 100 and talk to them about anything, then you need to really consider what type of relationship you have with that person.
It's like what you said last time about when you get to a certain age, you are more you're more protective of who you have in your circle.
You should be.
So like that's why I was writing the word intentional, and you said it right out your mouth, like BB. Yes. It's like I have in all my friendships, relationships, they're intentional, like they're purposeful. Like when I tell you, like my people, my circle, they're my master chin checkers. They are licensed to chin check and humble me and make me cry if necessary. Like, I love that. Speaking of that, so my best friend, she even spoke about how like when I was going through, like I had to watch how much I divvied out and make sure I gave some positive things that were going on in my life as well, even though there was so much bad that was going on, because it was making her sick and like stressing her out, stressing so much because she wasn't close to me, so she couldn't protect me like she wanted to. Like, she's a very protective friend. And so I had to make sure that even though I was going through what I was going through, I had to make sure I protected my best friend. And so like it was that communication, because she didn't have to say nothing. She could have just dumped that on her husband and told him about it, or one of her other friends. But no, she decided to say, I'm gonna say something to you. And so she did. And so I appreciate that communication part. So like definitely, like I 100% agree, like communication, period, is key.
When you have the conversation, you leave the door open for growth and potential, versus allowing it to go on and on and on and on and on. Then you do something that a lot of us do, which is you open the door for toxic. You open the door for toxicity. And a lot of times we are toxic to ourselves based on the decisions that we make and what we allow to happen to us and who we allow in. You know, so in a lot of ways, we are just pouring out the red carpet for toxicity. Here, come on in, toxicity. Come in our lives. Come hither. Have a seat. You want some wine, toxicity? Have some wine. So, okay, self-reflection, recognizing if it's toxic or if it's a nourishing relationship, calling it what it is, communicating. What else?
Know your worth.
Okay, that's good.
So valuing yourself is the biggest thing, and I guess this is on the this can be on any spectrum: family, relationships with a partner, or friendship. If there's somebody that's in your life on the toxic side of like tearing you down, know your worth, know who you are, know whose you are. If you know, realize your worth, write down your worth. Like, no one can tell you who you are except for you. Like, no one can. If someone's breaking you down and telling you about yourself, there's a difference between telling you about yourself and to help you grow, and then telling you about yourself to bring you down. Like, it's like there's some people who will do it in love, and try to help to build you up. They know exactly how to do it. And then there's some people that just to make you feel less of a person. I told y'all, like, I love who's in my circle now. Like, there's expectation for not, like, you know, I have, like I said in the last podcast, I have expectations for my friends. Like, my friends are a reflection of me, but I'm also a reflection of them. If I'm doing something wrong, trust and believe they're on my phone, they're on my line telling me get myself together. Get it? No, you supposed to be doing this and that. You supposed to be doing this and that.
Yeah.
Get it together. I'm not playing with you. Don't make me roll up to wherever you are in the DC area and come snatch you up right quick. Like, they're that real. And so, like, I'm like, all right, yo, I got it. It's a loving thing, and it's, if your friends are not there to uplift you, and if they're there to, you know, be toxic, then, like, you really gotta chin check your circle.
And that's why you just have to be very mindful of how a person is leaving you feeling. You know, when you're connected to that person, how do you feel at the end of the day on the broad? Not these one-offs, not these, we had a good day today, but just the overarching scheme of things. Like, how does that person leave you feeling? And you just really have to be honest about that. You know, and I think you get blindsided by, oh, well, we went out, we had a good time, girl. We went to that happy hour, we had a good time. But then the overarching scheme of things is that person make you feel like crap. You can't. You have to, like when Candiz said, know your worth, you have to know that you're better than that. You deserve better than that, because there's a billion and more people in this world that you can make connections to. You don't have to keep on hanging with the same people because you've been hanging with them for 5 years, 4 years, and y'all have a little crew and y'all have this little thing going on, or you're so used to talking to so-and-so, or you've been dating this guy and this is the guy that you was intended to marry and you don't love. Let me tell you something. Love is blind is more than a cliche. Love is blind, more like love is so blinding. And we're just talking about the love side of toxic relationships. You know, it's just, I think because now I've officially been like completely single for 2 years now. And being on the outskirts, and this has been intentional, right? So I've like been intentionally, I've talked to people, I've, you know, dated, but like being in a full-blown relationships, I've intentionally been single. And like being on the outskirts, right? Just looking and watching, even friends, like watching people in their different things. And it's like, you realize how much, even in my past, how much you just blindly overlook, which is toxic because of quote unquote love. And just blindly overlook because you're used to that person, or because you have this fear of going out and find something else that could be more nourishing to you. And that's even with friendships. You know, it's like you have this fear of going out and meeting new people. And as far as friendships, no new friends. That was the stupidest thing that we were chanting for years. No new friends? Like, no! Don't stay in a toxic friendship talking about some no new friends. Like, heck no! You have so much more life to live, God willing, and you need to accept more people in your life that could be more nourishing to you than the person that you've known for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You can know someone for 1 year of your life. And that one relationship in that 1 year could help edify you in a way that no one has ever done as long as you've known them. Friendship, relationship, family-wise, and so on.
You know, you never know who is going to be in your circle. Now, just because you're friends doesn't mean they're in your circle.
Oh, yeah.
But
that's a whole different conversation for it.
But still, like, just be open. Like, I talk about my posts all the time. One of my, a girl from my church, like when I say girl, a queen from my church, like I did not see that coming at all. And I was just like, yo, we're friends. Like, I like you. You're in my circle. Like, you're one of those people that I can talk to, and you're one of those people that doesn't mind chin checking me, and you'll tell me you love me right after. Like, I'm good. We're great. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I was actually wanted to talk about this meme that I saw. So she posted, I'm very cautious about who has access to me lately, and it's not out of arrogance. It's out of need to continue to protect my space and energy as I continue to do the work to elevate myself. this chapter requires for me to be less accessible. So, in regards to with dealing with toxic people, it's okay to protect your space and energy. It's okay to do that. Like, some people are like, you just cut me off. Like, you just disappeared on me. You just was like, you don't want to talk no more. It's okay. Don't let anybody guilt trip you into protecting your space. Not only just like your space around you, but your mental space. Don't let anyone guilt you into doing that and protecting your energy, because you should have love for you first and foremost. And if anyone guilt trip you into protecting your mental space and your energy, then that just is like a confirmation that they were already toxic in the first place.
I love the part about protecting your space, and I think in my time of intentional singleness, that's something that I've really mastered doing, is protecting my space. Like, I have friends who say, Shara, you have no problem with cutting people off. Like, I hear that all the time, and I don't know if it's that I'm good at hiding it, but I struggle with that. But I've gotten that comment from more than one person, that like I'm just the type of person that cut, and I'm really not. Like, it takes me a long time to make that decision. But I would say over the past 2 years, yes, I have gotten better at that, because I'm really cognizant of who's in my space, what I allow in my space. Because what I've learned is, like, because I do get emotionally connected to people, it set me back. So if there's any type of disturbance in my life, like I think about it for a long time. I like go back and forth with it over my head, and like my schedule is already busy enough, being a single mom of 2 kids, 9 to 5, etc. Everything. Like, I don't have time for anything to be out of sync that throws me off my game. So for the past 2 years, I'm really careful about how much I let people in, who I let in, and I'm, another word that you use is like purposeful. So it has to be purposeful. If we are spending a lot of time together, it has to be purposeful.
Some other points I wanted to hit on was, so hold yourself accountable. Once you pull yourself back out of that friendship, relationship, family issue, whatever, after you take yourself out that situation, to stay out of that and to build yourself up. I know, like, me and Shara, we journal a lot, like heavy. So it's okay to go and make a list of how to get yourself back together. Not only for back to where you once was, but greater than where you were at. Because that is definitely key to getting yourself back into a more purposeful and more better mental space. So when I said more, like, you're already purposeful, you're already here for a purpose, but more purposeful space. So it's okay to make that list on how you need to grow and get back. And then
Can I speak on that?
Yeah.
With the journaling piece, just on the opposite end. So yes, journaling about where you want to be consistently, and that's just part of something I preach a lot about on my social media, which is manifesting. Like, you should be writing down who you want to be, and it should be consistent. But on the opposite end of that, when we're talking about people who have been toxic toward you, I think it's a good idea, because I had to do this for myself, to hold myself accountable to not falling in the trap of being a part of a toxic relationship again. I've had to write out a list of the ways that people have been toxic toward me. So for instance, in the first toxic relationships part 1, I talked about the last guy who I was dating, and we were talking, and I realized that it was just toxic to me. Why was it toxic to me? Because it was emotionally draining. He continuously lied, this, that, and the other. So for him, we would get into these bits where we would argue, and I would stop talking to him, and then he would do the cutest things, and then we would talk again. One example being, like, one day he called me up. He was on the way to work, and he dropped off a bouquet of flowers on my porch with a note. And he always wrote me notes. I always kept all of his notes, and he knew that. So it was like part of the cuteness of everything. So he was like, hey, can you check your front porch? When I go on my front porch, there's flowers, there's a note, and it all over. I was in the cycle all over again, right? So it was just like, you have to sometimes break the cycle because you forget. Even in friendships, how quickly we forget when things are going good that, this is somebody who shouldn't be in my life in the first place, but I keep on falling into the trap. And, sometimes you have to have that list to hold yourself accountable to not continue on in that cycle. And so I had to literally write out this list. So like our last interaction was he invited me to breakfast, and long and behold, something else toxic happened, and it was just like, well, take it back to the list, girl. You shouldn't even have been in that breakfast. But it just reminds you of, this is why this person shouldn't be in my life. But it also, in the grand scheme of things, just like, this is what I don't want overall. Not only just person, like overall, I don't want someone in my life who continuously lies and who continuously just makes me feel confused. That's toxic. I don't want it. And then on the other side of things, that gives me light. It's all data. Every relationship that you have, good or bad, it's all data. So that provides me with the data of things that I do want. What I do want is complete transparency and honesty. No matter how crazy and complex it is, I want that. So that's what that did provide me. Every relationship that you have teaches you something, and you need time to reflect on it and think about it so that you know how you can grow from it.
And there goes that word reflect again, because I always say, it's crazy how you said that, but like, it's literally crazy how you said that, because like this very week, like I've been in a leadership conference, and I was sitting there during the praise and worship part, and God was just like, you need to write these things down that you just went through. And I was like, okay. And so I just writing this list as I'm sitting there. I'm just like, yo, this is a list. And he's like, yeah, this is new. This is new. You dealt with that before, but this was a little bit of a change up. So this is like, okay, now write your other list. So my other list was things that he's giving me insight on in regards to my future king. It was like, these good qualities that I just showed you. So write those down too. But not to ignore this. Like, it's okay to keep a dating journal. So with that being said, make sure that you have a grand support system. This could be friends, it could be family, it could be co-workers, it could be your boss. You'd be surprised how many bosses care about their people's mental space. So, your support system, like when you alert your support system when you're exiting out of certain things, there are those people, they're quick to pray for you if you're about that prayer life. They're quick to check in on you to make sure you are. Even if you are the token strong friend, you'd be surprised who comes and make sure that you're all right. Let's see, check in, praying for you. They'll also make sure that that you get out the house, because sometimes you just want to sit in and you want to be a hermit. You don't want nobody to see you. Like,
don't look at me.
They're gonna be like, hey, yo, come get some food. And see, that's always the key for me. Like when people who have my best intentions in the heart and they love me, they love on me, and they offer me food. Ooh, I mean, y'all see this? That's exactly what happens. So, and when you're backing yourself away from that, it's like all these arms are just coming and closing around you and building this wall in front of you. So whenever that person tries to come and gets back into your space again, they're like, no, you can't access this way. You can't access this way. So not only are we praying, we're checking in and we're making sure that we're protecting your mental space and that we're building you back up, but we're also blocking that which that you don't even want to have in your life anymore.
And just reminding you, like, girl,
remember this.
Why are you going
girl,
out?
What you writing in that journal? Go read it in that journal. Go read it to me. Read it out loud. Read it to me. Okay, exactly. Sometimes people are just sent to teach you a lesson. It sounds pretty messed up, but if you didn't learn that lesson, how would you know what's a good thing?
Right, and you're trying to hold on to this person, trying to make them a lifetime person, and they were never meant to be. And that's what you just have to realize that sometimes they were not. And you are continuously draining yourself day by day, week by week, month by month, holding on to this person who's emotionally draining you, who's hurting you, who's disappointing you consistently and constantly. We all make mistakes. We all fall short of the glory, etc. But at some point, you have to recognize it for what it is. With that, some people are only supposed to be in your life for a season, and then we end up dragging it out and hurting ourselves. So earlier when I said sometimes we are toxic to ourselves based on our decisions, that's a very real thing. Like, recognize seasonal people. Like, and sometimes those are people that we love the most, and it's okay. You get over. You was okay before that person came into your life. You're gonna be okay after.
It's like something you said earlier. Not said earlier, but something you said to me before is about like it's okay to audit your relationship. I wrote that down because I felt like that was like such a good verbiage in regards to that, like auditing your relationship. So with that being said, never settle. A lot of times that we're in these relationships and friendships, we begin making excuses for that person and settling for things that we shouldn't be settling for. It's like some people are just here to teach you a lesson, and that's it. Take it for what it is. Like, take your lesson and your food and roll out. Like,
take your lesson and keep it stepping. Take your lesson and keep it stepping.
Hey,
take your lesson and keep it stepping.
Hey,
take your lesson and keep it stepping.
Take your lesson. Make sure that we're not acting careless on our behalf. Just allowing us to settle for just anything for the sake of love. And I was guilty of that.
Yeah.
That's why it's so easy for me now to just be like ghosting people and just cut people off because I'm familiar with these certain things.
Yeah.
That I dealt with before. Like I said, going back to my list. Like, I look at my list and just like, I keep a red flags list as I'm talking to people. I keep a girl, what you already settling for. Like, why are you settling for this and that? Like, I be chin checking myself throughout things. Like, and I'm like, you know what? Let's see how this plays out. And they're like, nope, I'm Neo. I'm not. Gotta get out.
Wait, what was that?
The Matrix.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I have this quote for one of my passengers because yes, I'm an Uber driver amongst other things. But she said, her name was Allison, you know when you're doing something right when your soul doesn't feel drained but energized. So that goes back to everything that we just said. Like, when you remove yourself from these toxic relationships, friendships, toxic family members, you're gonna feel the difference. You're gonna feel it. Like, when you spoke in the last podcast, like, you can feel it all through here. Like, just all in my, Like, you're gonna feel that release. You're like, oh, I can walk again.
A weight is lifted.
I can breathe.
Yes.
I'm good. I'm energized. I can go do this. I can do that. I feel empowered.
And that's not to say that in the beginning it doesn't feel bad. You know, because I think you do go a moment, but it's like you purging yourself. It's like when I'm a cleanser, so I'll do a fast and a cleanse in a minute. In the beginning phases of the cleanse, it don't feel good. You feel tired. You feel fatigued. Sometimes you feel sick. Sometimes you get flu-like symptoms. But after about that second or third day, let me tell you something. If you're on a really cleanse, you're going to feel a burst of energy. Like, you're going to feel like a brand new person. It's like the same concept when you are literally ridding your body of toxins when you do a cleanse. Same thing with toxic people. You are ridding yourself of toxic people. It's going to feel bad in the beginning. You're gonna feel doubtful. You're gonna be like, I can't do this. It's gonna feel bad. And then after you get over that hump, trust me, it's gonna feel good.
That's why I was
feel
thinking about
purposeful.
cutting off. That's all that we have. Do you have anything else that you want to
That
share?
is it. I think we have exhausted this topic on toxic relationships.
Ooh, yes.
So continue to give us feedback in the comments here on YouTube, Instagram. Please DM us, tell us your thoughts. If you know for sure that you have been toxic to other people, give us a thumbs up, smash that like button. Facebook, The Water and Wine Show, subscribe here on YouTube. And if you have any, we're still taking show suggestions. We have gotten some since our last show.
Yes.
Please continue to give us show suggestions. We will fit them in. And we have some things upcoming that we're excited about
So
that
we
we're
are
going to
prepared.
announce.
We have some surprises.
Yes. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for our next episode.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time on The Water and Wine Show.